I lived in North Korea from June 2012 to March 2014. I followed my son's father when he was already for 6 months in North Korea working with the UN. So I went there with a family visa. No, I was very curious, very, very curious. I wanted to see how is really North Korea, if it's what we believe or if it's something different, and it was very different. All flights go Beijing, Pyongyang, and either you travel with Air China or with Air Koryo. I traveled with Air Koryo, which was very, very decent company. And then when we arrived in North Korea, I remember I was looking from the window of the plane and I saw a man pushing an animal. That's the first image I had from the North Korean. And then when we arrived in the airport, you have people in uniform who come to welcome you in the country. And then the man who was there looked very, very tough with his uniform. He picked up my son and he starts dancing with him. So I say, okay, it's not that bad. They didn't check anything. They didn't confiscate anything because the time when I arrived, 2012, they had stopped confiscating mobile phones and they just let you go. When Kim Jong-un went on power, this rule didn't apply anymore. And many, many rules.
Did you have to answer many questions
They didn't
once you
ask
got
anything.
there?
No. They asked me more questions in Beijing. Why you're going to North Korea? Which kind of visa you have? How did you get your visa? But nothing in North Korea.
Because I was under the impression that they kind of watch you all the time if you're a foreigner. That's not true, you're saying?
I don't think so. I think, as I said, I was not a tourist there.
Mm-hmm.
So tourists, when you have tourists, they have two guides with them all the time. What was happening is you could go in Pyongyang wherever you wanted. You could go to two provinces, just take your car and go. For the other provinces further up, you needed to say about a few days before that you plan to go there. And then you take the permit. With my son, I used to go to the local playgrounds every day, take him and go. And people were very happy to see us there. I could see gradually the difference from 2012 to 2014, how people were becoming more open. You could see clothes were more colorful. People had more free time. Also, in 2012, they started the reshaping of Pyongyang. Mm-hmm. So they demolished all the military barracks and they built sports playgrounds, amusement parks. So people were so excited to go there. There's also a lot of restaurants, very good food, cheap food. Locals, they love to go out and eat. They love to do picnics, and you see picnics everywhere. And if you pass by, they grab you and they offer you food. One of the most local, what they like, and I don't know why, they take oysters, and they put petrol, and then they put fire, and then they eat it. They love it.
Were there any moments that you felt scared, either for you or for your son's safety?
North Korea is extremely safe. There's no criminality. And there's no criminality not because they're afraid that they will be caught. It's because people are really simple and traditional, and it's really like living in a village where the community relationships are really strong. It has happened that, for example, I took a photo one day of a house, and then I see the military coming. And then, yes, with all this paranoia we have, when you go, that they will put you in a prison, I said, oh my God, they're coming for me now. Indeed, they came, and they told me in Korean that I couldn't understand. I was not supposed to take this picture. And then they asked me to delete the picture. And then I got scared, and I gave them the whole camera, but they didn't check. They just asked me to delete this picture. And then I just deleted it and I asked me to go. Probably, I think somebody must have watching and looking what I'm doing, because you see a foreigner with a big camera, what am I doing? But I never have problems. All foreigners, except the Russians and the Chinese, we live in an area which they call the diplomats' village, because it used to be where they used to have the embassies. It's open. You're free to go and leave, there's no problem. You have guards, but it's normal because all embassies have army guarding them. This neighborhood was in the heart of one of the most poor areas of Pyongyang. Sometimes I was even surprised because I was going in the really poor areas of Pyongyang and I could just go and walk around. And I come back.
In the beginning, didn't you have, you said, this paranoia? Like,
I
maybe they're
had,
watching
but the
me,
people
you know?
are so nice and so polite and so friendly that you really forget it. For me, I said I will go until I'm stopped. You didn't really know what you're allowed to do because nobody does. But what was happening is, for example, we were told that we are not allowed to take public transportation. And one day I say, why? What's going to happen? So I go and I stop the bus and I get in the bus. And it says nothing happened. What the government is doing in North Korea is pretending to look on the other side and let them do. Private economy always existed in North Korea, but under Kim Jong-un, it was almost, officially state-run. Restaurants were private, taxis were private, a lot of investment, Chinese investment. You can find everything. Everybody has a mobile phone. And you see a lot of people in the waiting the bus, playing with the mobiles.
What was the biggest limitation that you felt
For
in
me?
Korea, for you?
The language. And of course, it's a completely different way of living. But in my case, going around with a child and being a woman, it was very easy to start talking with them. The ones that they knew English, they wanted to come and talk so they can practice. So you had some students that when they see a foreigner, they were all coming to speak English. And they were saying, I mean, their problems, they were saying that their houses are not very well for the winter. It's not that they were sharing their worries, and they don't talk politics, but they talk about every day.
As a
Yeah.
Westerner, what do they think of you? Do
First
they
of all,
ever tell you, stop putting sanctions to us?
No, they don't talk politics. They don't. The people, they don't. But they're so happy when they see foreigners.
What was the closest political thing they told you that maybe surprised you?
No, what they do, they ask a lot of questions about the place where you come from. Where have you been? How many countries have you been? What have you seen? How are the streets? How are the shops? How is the television? How many cars? They ask everything. I remember one young man who said, "So how is Europe?" And what could I say to that? Say it's different. And then he said, "Do they know the university I'm studying at Kim Il Sung University? Do they know it?" They're very proud for what they have, because they also feel that what they have is really unique. And it's a proud people. But the Koreans, they are like this. The South Koreans also it's the mentality of the people, it's their history.
How about the media? They have one TV
Yeah, they have
station,
one.
right?
Yeah, there's no free media in North Korea. Yeah. There's no media. There's just the state official newspaper English and the Korean one. There's no freedom of expression, of course. But what is interesting is that when you see the news, people imagine that the news, they just show missiles and things like this. They don't. They used to have, for example, reports about the avian flu. And they had a professor of the Atlanta speaking. They had documentaries from BBC. The favorite program in 2013 was a story, Ronaldo's life. The women were going crazy. It was at 5 o'clock, you couldn't see a woman in the streets of Pyongyang because you could see Ronaldo. They're crazy with this name, all small and...
And they're allowed
Yeah.
to have cartoons from
Oh,
Disney?
yes. The Disney films, you can find them in the market. They're selling them. It's the movies that you have to find in the black market.
We have the impression that these people are constantly bombarded with the propaganda against the West. Is that true? And is the propaganda so big as much as we think?
I will reverse the question. How do the North Koreans are presented to us? What do we know about North Korea? What do we know about the leadership? What do we know about the country? We don't know anything. We read reports even in the biggest news like Kim Jong-un has a cheese disease and he just wakes up in the morning, he kills everybody depending on his mood. People are just walking like a Nazi army. I mean, what do we know about North Korea? Its propaganda is both ways and for a reason.
Do you think that the people see the Westerners as enemies?
No, they don't. They feel they are in a state of war, but this is normal. They feel they are being punished by the West, which is true. But no, I don't think we can get the truth really about North Korea. And when you get the truth about North Korea in the Western media, it's being really under a lie to dehumanize the people. And the reason to dehumanize North Korea is by presenting like this to make us accept a normal event, a nuclear war in Korea. But it's normal because this is what media do. This is how they manipulate.
How do the people feel when they see the missiles going above the Pacific Ocean, you think?
Yeah, people in North Korea, what they do, first of all, if we see the history, North Korea, it was carpet bombarded by the Americans in the Korean War, and you had about 20 million people dead. It was one of the biggest catastrophes ever happened. You had war crimes during the Korean War. War crimes that were revealed only in 1998. All these crimes, they were never acknowledged by the international community, and there's no peace treaty. Technically, they're still in war with the Americans. Since then, they have been isolated for, we can discuss the reasons of the isolation, and then you had this sanctions for the past 30 years almost, since 1992 we have sanctions that kill the people, kill the economy, and you have all this negative narrative about North Korea. The West has a lot of blame into this.
What I want to find out is the people that you met, that you lived with for 2 years, how do you think they feel, those happy people that you described before, when they see Kim Jong-un and his missiles
What I said, people they don't feel
going above the Pacific
yes,
Ocean.
but the people they're not people that they want to have war. They're people that they're being really put in a corner from the international community with criminal sanctions that they don't even allow them to have medications.
So they see that as kind of
This is a defense. But it is a defense in a way, because North Korea hasn't really attacked any other country, hasn't really threatened to invade any country unless provoked. I'm not defending North Korea, I'm just explaining what is happening. I was here during the crisis of 2013, where there was again like a war situation, and there was nothing. You couldn't understand what was happening, except that it was in the news. But they wouldn't go out.
That's what I mean
No.
with the flags and say,
No,
oh,
no,
we
no,
cut out
no.
our missiles or something.
No, you don't see that. You don't see that. But I think they feel that they are they're being defended right now from aggressivity, because indeed there is a lot of aggressivity against North Korea.
Do you
Korea and
really
the US.
think that North Korea poses a real threat to America, and they really thinking seriously to hit US soil?
No, I think this is deterrent strategy. We're in a Cold War logic. First of all, up until 2005, we had a lot of chances as international community to stop the nuclear program. After 2005, that's it. Then I think it's not realistic anymore to speak about stopping the nuclear program of North Korea. Now what we can negotiate only is not to expand. What North Korea is doing now by using all this nuclear knowledge is a way to put the country in a better negotiating position. So when they believe that they are in a position to negotiate because now they have the weapons, they will. It's a game from both sides. That's why we see these escalations. We will not see a war unless there is an accident, but we'll see a lot of escalation of violence.
Have you ever seen in public Kim Jong-un while you were there?
In a visit when we were all invited, and he was there in a concert. You don't know if he's coming or not, so we didn't know that he was gonna come. And then I hear rumors from Koreans who were with us that he is coming, so they were all excited. And suddenly you see, very late, you see him coming in, and then you hear people applauding, and then you understand he came in.
How truthful is the image that we have about this leader?
I don't believe that they're crazy leaders. I think they're leaders who might have arrogance, who might have not knowledge, but I think they all follow a political plan. And I think he's following a plan. And he knows what he's doing. He wants to pursue this road of nuclear power in a way to be able to negotiate and put his country in a position that he will not have the fate of Saddam or the fate of Gaddafi. This is what he's doing. In the same time, by doing this, he can advance the economy of the country because he's saving money. It's a plan, and this plan that he has announced since 2012, and he's following it. If you follow what Kim Jong-un is saying, and he's been quite consistent.
Would you say that Kim Jong-un is a good leader for North Koreans?
I cannot say, because you know there are things we don't know, like the human rights things. This really, we don't know many things, and the
But
information
we don't know,
have...
there's no human rights. I mean, we know that there is no
but
human rights.
you know what?
When you can go on the street and say, I just want this person killed just because I want to,
But this is not happening.
you have the potential to do that.
Really, I don't know. I haven't seen that. There are human rights that do exist in North Korea, because there's no human rights at all. But you have a population that has access to school. There's no illiterate people. There's access to medical care. There's 98% cover of vaccination for all kids. You have those things. Of course, you have this malnutrition issue, which is big. You don't have people going hungry to bed. You have people who don't eat well. So you have anemia. You have all those things. Okay, the quality of the food is a big, big issue. Yes, you don't have freedom of press. Yes, of course, you don't have political parties that officially they do, but in my opinion, I think they are not. Now, do you have labor camps? Have we seen those labor camps? We don't. We can only assume. I can assume that in a country where the bureaucracy is so high, where the power is concentrated to one person or to very few people, of course, when you have a regime like this, yes, I think there must be, maybe there are labor camps, there are places where they put
Do you think that this regime
opponents.
should change? Would that be in favor of the people?
If you go now and you bomb, would that be the favor of the people? Was it in favor of the people in Iraq? Was it in favor of the
I'm not
people
saying
in
only bomb.
Libya?
Maybe it might be from the inside. Maybe it's the revolution, you say.
How? Which kind of revolution? If the Americans could provoke a revolution inside, they wouldn't have done it so far. I think there's no space, but not only because of the oppression of the government, also because of the history of the Koreans. Koreans have had a feudal state for 400 years, they had the Japanese occupation for 40 years, and then they had the liberation by Kim Jong-il, and then when the world was separated into, they have the government that they have now and the system that was created by Kim Il-sung. He created Korea.
We see all this love for the leader, any leader, the father before Kim Jong-un or now. It's hard for me to believe that's real.
We need to understand the Koreans in the sense that the history of the country, also the tradition of the Southeast, the Asian countries, the Confucius tradition, the tradition of the fatherly leader that protects. See the king in Thailand, how is he's worshipped. See the emperor in Japan. It's also a kind of tradition. Of course it was reinforced by the propaganda, of course, but it was there. It was not invented.
Talk to me about the most important things that we believe about North Korea are true, but are not.
The first one is that people, they just, they walk like in the military and they don't, they are like this is not true. There are people like everywhere in the world, really. You see policemen in the street, the traffic police, for example, people were negotiating, were debating. The other big myth is that they're dying of hunger. There's no hunger in North Korea. There is a malnutrition issue. It's a problem of quality of food, not lack of food. And the sanctions also that play a big role in that. They don't execute people in the streets. I mean, this is, they're not going to kill you because you have a DVD from South Korea. That's not, what you will get, yes, you will get 15 at least years of hard labor if you have a Bible, because the issue of the religion is a big issue. It's a crime. I think if you want to advance human rights, you don't use sanctions. They're completely, they're failed. It's failed, completely failed. There's nothing left to sanction anymore. And you hurt the ordinary Koreans, but the missile program is fine, nothing, cannot touch it, and the leadership is not. And North Koreans are used to live under pressure, so it doesn't really make any difference to them. It makes them even more around the leadership because they feel threatened. On the contrary, there is a growing middle class in North Korea. There's a private economy in North Korea. You have a lot of people traveling back and forth in China for trade. So these people, they bring back goods, they bring back ideas, they're in contact with, they use Chinese mobile so they can catch other channels, so they know what is happening. So if you help the private economy, you help actually the openings. Because either we like it or not, this is what North Korea has as a leadership right now. So if we could enter into talks with them and support the openings, then the country will open up. It's at the same time, I think, for Kim Jong-un, is a compromise that he had to do because he has to allow the middle class, because this absorbed the tension. And capitalism is inside North Korea.